So I think in last 3 or 4 sessions we have finished functions as well as basics of pointers. At the same time, I taught you, rather I along with example program, I showed you that how to divide your C source code into multiple files where there would be one file which will contain main function, there will be another file which will contain prototypes of the functions, and there will be third file which will contain definition of those functions which you call from the main functions. That is a multi-file programming in C. I hope you would actually start writing program in those ways, in that manner. At the beginning there would be some hurdles, there would be some issues if you forget to include files and write create those files. Some predefined process is there, and I think once you watch that video again, try to implement writing C program in a multiple files, right? So we will start along with the new chapter, that is arrays in C. Basically, as I told in the last chapter, now pointers will reappear in almost all chapters here onwards. And that is the reason in the last chapter I I explained only fundamentals of pointers. So don't worry, use of pointers with arrays, use of pointers with structures, strings, every time again I will cover fundamentals of pointers again and again so that they fit in your mind. Now, arrays basically is a what you can say secondary data type if you can recall. Before I start explanation of an array, let's see what will be the contents of this chapter, right? So basic terminology or important concepts which we are going to learn in this chapter are array is a secondary data type, then what is array notation, what is basically index of an array, then array assignment, so how elements of an array can be assigned, how array can be initialized, very important. Then which are various arithmetic operations on pointers. So this is where pointers will reappear. Then base address of an array. In my opinion, this point, base address of an array, is highlight of this chapter because this concept, once you understand, it will help you throughout the rest of the what you can say rest of the contents of C programming language. Then passing array to the function. So how array can be passed to the function, and multi-dimensional array. That is, in our curriculum, we will consider two-dimensional array. So how two-dimensional array can be written, where in which cases this is required. So all these and all these are major concepts. All related concepts will also be covered. So basically, I will read this and shift to the whiteboard. So basically, square brackets is array notation, right? I will directly go to the white screen. Let me share first. So as I told you, as far as data types are concerned, data types or whatever, right? There are two. One is the primary and another is the secondary, right? And as far as secondary is concerned, first we saw as a pointer, right? Why it is called a secondary? Only because pointer is not a keyword. So we created a pointer of integer, pointer of float, pointer of character. Likewise, pointer of character we have not created, but I think in the examination we have taken that in the example. So pointer is a secondary data type. It is also called as a derived because these are derived from the int basic data type, int char, right, and float. So there is a integer pointer, there is a character pointer. There is a float pointer. That's why we also called as a derived data type. The second in this list is our this chapter we call as a array, right? Array is a secondary data type, right? This chapter what we call as a array. It is also pronounced as array, maybe, I don't know. So basically it is a derived data type, right? It is a derived data type. How it is declared? First of all, what is how compiler will come down? As I told you, when I talk about the pointer, this is not the data type or other primitive data type or basic primary data type. So how compiler comes to know that you are dealing with a pointer? How compiler will know that you want to store an address of variable? So you attach the star at the time of declaration. Okay. So when you attach the star, this p becomes a pointer, right? P becomes a pointer. So this star is basically it tells the compiler that the following variable b is going to be a pointer variable. Right? Without that star, you cannot tell the compiler. No, same star is used for indirection. So getting the value at the variable to which p is pointing. Again, you use the star, right? Star operator or asterisk. Now, as far as array is concerned, similar notation is there, which we call it is a pair of scale brackets. This is the array notation. So this tells the compiler that you are dealing along with an array. On that basis, it comes to know that you want to play along with an array. You want to store elements in an array, some kind of thing. So how array can be defined? Array is a collection of elements having same data type and same nature. Okay, that nature is very important. Why? First of all, uh, how to declare an array, right? So declaration of array is first of all data type, right? Then name of an array. Suppose name of an array is num and use the array notation, array size and semicolon. This is a declaration of an array. So what does it tell to the compiler? It tells the compiler that on the stack, okay, this is the stack, right? On the stack, allocate memory for 5 integers. 5 integers. So suppose one integer is taking 4 bytes of memory, allocate 20 bytes of memory. Okay, and this is contiguous memory. Okay, next to each other. So there will be memory for 5 integer elements. That is the you can say use of an array. It is also weakness, but let it be. So if we want to store multiple elements whose data type is same and nature is same. This is nature. I mean, this is not nature. Okay, this is name of variable, but nature I will come to. I mean, I will come over there very shortly. So you can store 5 integers in this array. Use is obviously storing elements is useful. Accessing those elements is useful. You can perform some operations on this array, and that everything is possible only because of declaration of an array or array as a data type. Now, first of all, when the need arises, so this is a data segment, this is a stack, right? Now, in the first program, I think first program, or even again in function, we have written a program to store marks of five subjects, if you can recall. So how did you declare variables? You declare variables like int. Everybody might have used different notations for declaration of variables. But suppose I declare a variable as m1, okay, marks of five subjects, m2, right, m3, m4, and m5, right. At the same time, you declare a variable like int total, right, and I think you declare a variable like float average, right, something like this. So these are only five subjects. Now in engineering, there are 40 subjects, I think, maybe 41, 42. I don't know right now. It differs from branch to branch. So if you want to store marks of 40 subjects, you will need more variables like M6, M7, M8, okay, M9 up to M40. Right. So you need variables like M6, M7, okay, and up to M40. But this is not the right way, right? This is not the right way. Okay. Maybe we are dealing along with marks, but there is something like suppose a score of a cricket score. Okay, if somebody has played suppose 200 one day matches and you want to store those, then will you go for declaring 200 variables? No, that is not a logical answer to this problem, because after all, when we learn programming, we write programs to find a solution to solve a problem. And if you want to solve a problem, solution must exist. At the same time, solution should be logically viable solutions. Very important. Right? It doesn't mean what does it mean? Suppose you declare 40 variables, you can do that. You can achieve result. Okay, but that is cumbersome. First of all, very difficult to manage these many variables, and very difficult to write those programs. Very difficult to find the errors in this program because number of variables grow, typo mistakes grow. So a lot of problems will be there. So remedy over this is can we store these marks in a data type which can be easily managed. So Dennis Ritchie gave a solution in terms of array. So what he suggested declares use the data type same as int, right? Then for these many variables, it, I mean, Dennis just suggested you, okay, use the single variable m, or let's say we use the variable as marks, right, or mark. And how many subjects you want to store? Suppose five. So use the square bracket five. That's it, right? So instead of this, you will use the array. Now, what was the case when you declare M1, M2, M3? There are fair chances. There is, I mean, I'm saying fair chances that M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5, right, will be given adjacent memory. Okay, that is what we have. No, we wrote simple programs and tried to find the addresses. So chances are there, but there is no guarantee. So what do I mean? No guarantee means there is also possibility that M1 will be given memory here, M1 will be given memory here, M2 will be given memory here, M3 will be given memory here, M4 will be here, M5 will be here. Fair chances. I mean, this is also possibility, right? This is also possibility. So obviously, accessing takes time. If when you access M1, it will be accessed from this location. It in some any address. Again, M2 will access M2, then M3, then M4, then M5. So all variable memory is scattered. Okay, and finding them, all finding, accessing, retrieval, everything is done by that no CPU and all these things. It will be handled internally. But after all, to collect the things which are scattered, obviously it takes more efforts, more energy, more time. But if it is contiguous, like suppose in your college library, books are placed adjacent to each other, so that that retrieval of the book and keeping it back very easy. Instead, just imagine that books are scattered all over the library in the room. Okay, very difficult to find that book. Very difficult. Okay, and after all, we do not know whether we would be able to find it or not. So in such cases, obviously that rack came into this world, and in that, or rather, we call it as a shelf. So bookshelf came into this world, and probably no people started keeping that books in a bookshelf. And that is the reason array is basically a data structure. Array is a basic data structure. What is the data structure? Storing and organizing data in different ways on the basis of problem to be handled. If we want to store marks of 5 subjects, the first solution is declare an array. That's it. So I told you, when you declare an array, obviously what will happen? Suppose 4 bytes of memory is given for integer, then 20 bytes of memory, contiguous elements will be allocated. Right? And the single name is given to this variable. Right? The single name is marks. So name of this variable is mark, single name. Here there were how many variables? Different names were there. M1 is different, M2 is different. This is not the case. Here marks is single variable. Very easy. So be it 100 subjects, I mean 40 subjects, or no runs in 201 days. Okay. So a single variable can accommodate all scores of all those 201 days. Very easy. Okay. So you can declare a variable like int score, and I will write suppose 200. So this will be an array of 200 elements. Right. So what will happen inside the this thing? There will be array of 200 elements. Right. So 200 elements will be there like this. 400, 200 into 4, 800 bytes will be there. What is the use? Use is or benefit single variable name, and second is they are placed one to next to each other. Accessing is very easy. How accessing helps us? Only because each of these element has got unique address, index, unique index. Okay, indexing is done by the compiler. So this first element is having index as 0, right? The second element has index as 1. The third element has index as, sorry, 2, right? The third element, the fourth element has got index as 3. The fifth element, the last one in this array, has got index as 4. Okay. So if somebody asks you, Christian, what will be the index of last element of an array? Then no confusion. The size of an array, right, minus 1. So that will be the index of last element of an array. Size of an array minus 1. Now there is an enormous debate. Okay. And it is a continuous debate for last 40 years. Why C language or why programming languages uh, give index of first element of an 0? Because no, this creates a confusion among students while accessing elements or while storing elements. right? Obviously, you can know recall that when I wrote index of this, okay, I think this when I wrote the index of this third element, hmm, by mistake I said as 3. Okay, so that is quite obvious. Yes, this confusion will remain always among programmers. Okay, but we have to stay along with it because the systems have been designed in that way. So any array in not only in C but C++, Java or Python, everywhere indexing will start from 0. There is a reason for that. Okay, a real life example I will give you. A real life example. Suppose you, uh, I don't know where you stay, each of you might be having separate um, bungalow or a some kind of thing because we are staying in Kolhapur. Okay, but assume that you are staying in a some apartment flat system, or if you do not stay, you might have gone definitely to some apartment, multi-storied apartment like this, definitely. And usually there is a lift. Okay, so when you enter into the lift, okay, there is a board, right? There is a board. They have written as G, right? Then there is a 1, there is a 2, there is a 3, there is a 4, there is a 5, right? So when you want to go to the basically this floor, in a true sense, this is second floor. Okay, but the lifter, the number of lift, the number is that on that whatever board is there. So you press the one. Okay, so you go to the upper floor, right? And when you and in construction industry or everywhere, this is called the first floor, and this is called it is not zeroth floor, but it is called a ground floor. Ground. Sorry, written ground floor. So same here. Okay, in a true sense, this is third floor, but its index is 2 as far as lift is concerned. This is the fourth floor, index is 3. This is the fifth floor, index is 4. This is top floor, whose index is 5. So while talking, we say that this is a 6-story building, right? And definitely we can say no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-story building. But it is indexing is from ground 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So same logic is here, right? This is vertical, this is horizontal, right? Okay, I have heard that this practice is there in the some countries like India, Asian countries, or even Europe. But I mean, I think USA has got, as far as system is concerned, they call it as a 1-2. Okay, so again there is a difference. Okay, they call it the first is the ground floor, first two. Probably they don't want to create confusion. That's it, right? So that is a different story altogether. What I want to tell you is that um, here there is a role of pointer. That's why they have kept the index of first element as 0, right? Fine. So even I declare a array as marks of 5, right? There will be a memory, right? And there will be a 5 elements, right? This index is 0. So what is the notation of this element? Marks of 0, right? What is the notation of this? What do you mean by notation? Notation means its name, right? Notation is not right, but its name. Name of this individual element. Name of this individual elements is marks of. It is pronounced as marks of 1. So this will be marks of size minus 1, that is right, marks of. So this is how individual element of an array can be accessed or accessing in both way, storing element and retrieval of elements. Okay. After all, this is important. This is must. So array size must be given to the compiler when you write the program. Okay. In a programming terminology, it is called size of an array must be available at the compile time. Compile time. Okay. What is compile time? When you compile the program, that is the compile time. Program has got two major stages. One is the compile time, another is the runtime. Runtime is when you execute the program. Compile time is the when you compile the program. Right? So this must be a constant. I mean, what is the meaning of this? This cannot be a variable, not valid. Okay? Now, some changes are there in the these days I have heard, but basic definition of array is this must be a constant, right? This can be given in terms of macro, okay? Because this is allowed and this is a good programming practice. I will show you how to use that. But this is constant, right? Now, uh, how to initialize? What I was saying, I will explain whole array chapter using whiteboard first, conceptually and with the help of diagrams. I will teach you. Then we will go to the IDE to write programs. Hmm? So that you can visualize when I write any statement in the program, you can visualize that. That visualization is important. It will help you to understand that each concept of an array. So suppose I declare again int marks, right? 5, and if you give semicolon here, there are maybe the locator. So there are first of all, I can say three ways, okay, to store values in a variable. Suppose I declare a variable as int x, right? There are three ways to store values. One is initialize, right? Second is assignment, and third is input. Input from the user, right? So in this case, initialization, how do you write? Int x is equal to 5, right? This is initialization. In case of assignment, how do you write statements? You declare x as a variable, right? And the next line you write, next line or sometimes in the future, okay? Sometimes down in the program, you write x is equal to 5. This is assignment. And input, how do you write? You declare variables, right? And you write scanf. And using ampersand operator, you take the input from the user. So these are the three ways you can store some value in the X. Similarly, there are three ways, or there must be three ways, right? So same ways we will use here. Okay. So what is the first way? How to initialize? How to initialize an array, right? That is the first way, initialization of an array, right? So how to initialize? Int, observe carefully everything. Int marks, right? 5 is equal to opening curly brace 2, 1, 5, 9, and 4. This is called initialization, right? I have to get that pad at the earliest. Okay, initialization. So what is the care to be taken? It has to be in a pair of curly braces. Okay. So when you initialize, what happens? There will be a contiguous memory, right? There will be a contiguous memory, 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all these will be initialized. So array will be initialized like this: 1, 2, 1, 5, 9, 4, right? Now, what are the variants of this initialization? Variants are you when you initialize an array, you can this you can avoid. Okay, so this can be kept blank. Okay, I told you this can be sorry, this can be never kept as a blank. Okay, because this is a declaration of an array, so this cannot be kept as a blank. But here valid and allowed. Okay, so when you initialize an array, initialization is storing elements at the time of declaration, that we call it as the initialization. So as far as array initialization is concerned, there is no need, it is not mandatory to give size of an array. So how compiler will allocate memory? Because first of all, everything is for allocation of memory. Compiler requires size only because it wants to allocate memory. Here you are not giving size of an array, but you're storing, you're initializing that array. So compiler is no wise enough to see. Okay, I mean to observe, to see that there are 5 elements in the list. So it can allocate 5 into 4, 20 bytes of memory. So it will allocate like this. So this is valid. Okay. Second thing, when you uh, give size of an array, suppose like 8, okay, 8, and you give initialize only 5 elements, this is also valid. Obviously, the memory will be for how many bytes? How many elements? 8 elements. Memory in this case will be for 8 elements. Right? So I cannot draw here. Okay, there will be memory for 8 elements. Right? And these next last 3 elements will contain garbage. It will contain garbage because you have not initialized those. Right? What is the second way? Second way is to uh, second way is to declare an array. Sorry, what am I writing here? Declare an array as in the first case. So int marks, right? When you declare, size has to be there. and then assign elements. Okay, how assignments can be done? Use the indexes. So you will assign elements by using index. So marks of 0, right? You will write, okay, suppose same elements you want to store, or suppose I want to store 5. That is 5. Marks of 1. It is pronounced as, it is said as marks of 0 is 5. Marks of 1, suppose 7. Marks of 2, right? It is suppose 15. Likewise, last element will be marks of 4. This is last element. It will be 1, right? Suppose here we kept as a 40. So what will happen in this array? Suppose same array is there. I will not draw full memory. Okay. So int marks 5. 5 bytes of 5 memory for 5 elements will be allocated, whose name will be marks. Okay. Name of that allocated memory will be marks. And when this statement is executed, right? When this statement is executed, 5 will be stored here, right? When this statement is executed, 7 will be stored here. And likewise, so 15, 14, and 1 will be stored here. So obviously, when you do not initialize or when you do not assign, okay, at this statement, when you declare an array like normal variable, because it is a, again it is a auto variable, right? I'm using the that I'm using that region of data segment. I use the word as stack. So memory for the array will be allocated from the stack, and I have told you while teaching storage classes that be it any kind of variable, it is going to if it is a auto variable, it is going to contain garbage. So when you declare array like this inside a function, this is going to be an auto. Okay, this is going to be auto until you don't store any values in the array, either by initialization or scanf or assignment, it will contain garbage. So all these variable contents will be a garbage values, okay, till you do not store any values, right? And third way is to scanf, okay, to scanf. So I'll write scan. So how the code will be there? See, contiguous memory is allocated, and we know that indexing is from 0 to it will be 0, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So these indexings can be used to take the input. So how you will write the loop? For suppose your declared variable as I, suppose, so I is equal to 0, you can write semicolon, I less than, here it is important, you have to write I less than or equal to 4, right? I plus plus. Loop control structure you are going to use in an array, right? And inside this you write the scanf function. So scanf, right? You will write %d, right? And comma, you have written scanf inside the for loop, right? So write ampersand, very important. Address of what? Suppose marks is name of an array. Address of marks. This is very important. Address of marks along with index. So what is index? Send I. as the index variable. So I, right? So what will happen when this scanf function is executed the first time? Okay, ampersand marks of I has what value as 0. So ampersand marks of 0. So at the address of mark 0. So this is the address. Okay. So at the address of mark, so whatever value it will be entered, suppose 5 is entered, 5 will be stored here. The next time control goes, okay, the control will go here, I will become 1, it will come here, condition will be tested. If it is true, it will go inside and ampersand marks of 1. What is the ampersand? This is the address. Ampersand address of marks 1. So whatever value will stored, it will be stored here. So likewise, whatever loop will be executed 5 times, right? And whatever values entered by the user, it will be stored in the array at successive array element location. So likewise, you can scan those elements from the user. So these are the three ways to store values in the array. In a single term, you should know that this term is not also used usually in the books. Okay, there are a few books which uses this word, but this is a technical word, and you as a programmer you should know that this storing elements in the array, okay, by any means, be it initialization, be it assignment, or through the user input. The storage of values in the array, we call it as a populating an array, right? What that populating an array? You should know that. So whenever we store these elements in this fashion, we call it as a populate an array. We have populated an array, right? So I have explained you all three ways. And remember, whenever you do not store value, array contains garbage. One more thing. I will close this, right? When you declare an array, suppose I declare an array as num, sorry, num of suppose 5, right? Now, I told you that there will be contiguous memory locations, right? Like this, right? So, the name of this whole array, name of whole array is num. Name of this first element is num of 0, num of 1, num of 2, num of 3, num of 4, right? And I have when I tell you that array elements are stored in a contiguously, then its addresses are also contiguous. Since it takes suppose 4 bytes of memory, this will be 4 bytes of memory, right? I will use the different pen color. I mean, so suppose integer take 4 bytes of memory, so there will be 4 bytes of memory. This again will be having 4 bytes of memory. This will be again 4 bytes. Likewise, right? Now, this first element, suppose has an address as 25068. Okay. So what will be address of next element? It will be 25072. right? Address of next element will be 25076, right? This will be 78, and this will be what, 82, right? So when you use the scanf function and ampersand, try to use the ampersand num of I, that is ampersand num of 0, that is this address will be sent to the scanf function, right? And at this address it will count 4 bytes. Why? Because data type is integer, and these 4 bytes the element will be stored, right? Because for our visualization purpose, this is blue and this is for understanding purpose, right? It has been visualized with different colors, but inside the memory the array is like this. Array is like this, sorry. Inside the memory array is like this, right? Continuous. Okay, so how many bytes will be there? 20 bytes will be there, right? Absolutely contiguous. And that is the reason when you um, scan a for whatever store, okay, from this it will go at this address first. So this is suppose 68, okay. Okay, from here it will count 4 bytes of memory, and there it will store whatever value you have stored. Suppose you have stored 8, so it will be stored there likewise, because this is a true memory picture, and this memory picture is only for our understanding. Very important. So that index of an array is very important. And while explaining you the while talking on the second slide, I think, okay, various terms and important concepts of an array, I had talked about base address. Base address. So this is basically base, right? This is the base address of an array. Address of the first element of an array is called base address of an array. Very important, right? Let's revise what I have told you. Array is a secondary data type. I have what these concepts I have explained using the uh, animation, not animation, whiteboard, right? So array is the secondary data type. I have told you array notation. I have told you index of an array. I have told you array assignment. I have told you array initialization. It is covered. Arithmetic operations remaining. Base address I have told you. Okay, so arithmetic operations is remaining. Passing array to function remaining. Two-dimensional array remaining. Remaining means whatever, I mean, not taught on the whiteboard. It doesn't mean that rest of things are over now. Okay, now all these concepts which I explained using the whiteboard, I will again explain in detail with the aid of program, live programming. Okay, but at that time, since you have watched that whiteboard carefully, I hope so, you would be in a position to visualize, okay, that array when I write each statement, when I explain each statement of the program, right? That is very important, because each statement of the program has to be understood from the memory perspective. What is happening at the memory level? That is very important while understanding, while learning any programming language.